Greetings and welcome to the Gear Talk. Today's guest is Ivan from Kitbadger. Good to have you here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, give us a small brief that who you are and how did you end up on front of this table?
I'll try and keep it concise. Big picture, I have a YouTube channel, website, and stuff like that where I review outdoor gear as well as tactical gear, guns, things like that. And I think largely how I ended up here was 2020 Desert Brutality.
Yeah.
And yeah, competing there. And that was my first Brutality, which was awesome. And yeah, getting to meet you guys. And since then, keeping in contact. And then finally, I'd heard a bunch of great stuff about Finnish Brutality. And I'm like, I've never been to Finland. I should do that.
Yeah.
And so full circle, here we are in 2023.
Yeah, awesome. So we just completed the match and now we're in a recovery mode. And you did the match in borrowed gear from us, which is of course interesting situation that you're not having your own kit. You need to set up the stuff on the fly. Could you walk us through that? What was your main loadout and how did you ended up with these solutions from pieces we offered?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is I wanted the experience, and so I was like, cool, like let's do this. I don't have to fly with everything. You guys literally have everything. And also the confidence too in that you guys are creating gear for a very real mission because of a very real threat. So I'm like, well, it's probably pretty well thought out. And coming away from it, I was pretty pleased. Where do you want to kind of start with? You want to start like ground up base layers and stuff?
Let's go ground up.
Yeah. So the one thing that while you do carry boots, I wasn't going to try and find some like last minute or anything like that. And I actually wore these. These are limbs. I think these are their, I'm going to forget the name. It'll come to me later. They're basically a minimalist shoe though, and they are waterproof. And so not really knowing what kind of weather or anything we were going to get, I ended up opting for these and they did good. Kind of like high tops. Still got a ton of moon dust in them because of the range, but no, they served me well. And then kind of moving up from there, I guess, pants. These are your guys' combat pants, correct? Yeah, and I really like a number of the features that are kind of built in. One, inside here, this belt out of the way, you actually have the sizing because you have, it's not by inches or like 32, 34, right? Basically like military sizing. And I appreciate both sides of that as far as the long, short, beyond just regular, because these right here I think are medium long. And then also actually having it sized to where you can adjust the size even more, because military pants are usually like, maybe it'll fit, see what happens. And so no, these fit really well. And then also the high back, again, being able to keep a shirt tucked in, especially wearing armor. Pocket layout I liked. And I don't actually usually wear like knee pads or anything like that. And part of it is like I have Arc'teryx kneecaps and things like that. Part of it, one, I'll either just forget them, so I won't have them, or it'll just be like constantly bunching up pants or things along those lines. Whereas your guys' internal knee pads, like I got to the point where I was pretty much celebrating it on stages. Like I would go smash in on my knees because they did a really good job, stay in place. And yeah, like overall, I was really pleased with the pants. Like they did a great job, especially those knee pads on that range. Some of those stages, crawling
on the gravel.
On rocks.
The knee pads is like when we developed those pants, we had this discussion that do we want to do the kind of the external hard pads or internal pockets just for the soft ones, and we opted for the soft ones because it gives a wider usage for the pants. That if you would have the kind of the Cry type or similar
Right.
type of knee pads, it looks pretty dorky if you don't use
When
them.
you don't have them in
So
there.
we wanted to kind of go for a bit traditional look, and I think it adds for the functionality.
No, definitely. And I probably didn't seal these up enough, or I was probably just that rough, but I'm pretty sure there's definitely a rock in here somewhere, just from some pretty rough use.
Yeah.
But no, those things, those saved me. And then, of course, your combat shirt. Combat shirt's really nice. Like, again, this material, just how well it breathes, moves moisture. And then this, I guess it is made for elbow pads, but again, didn't wear them, but enough material to where like my elbows never got torn up.
Yeah.
Like even being pretty rough, getting down into the prone, getting up and just moving through some of those obstacles and stuff. Like it, that material, not to mention it held up really well too. Yeah. The one thing I ran into some, and part of it is you just can't get away from it, is depending on where this was and how the zipper was laying under the plate carrier. Like, can't really get away from that one though, but it is what it is. Which I guess brings us to your plate carrier. And yeah, so I ran in armored breacher, and so we needed, what was the weight threshold? I can't remember.
12 kilos in
12
total.
kilos, yeah.
And you needed to certain items that you need to have 3 full rifle magazines, 2 pistol mags, 1 liter water, light knife, first aid kit. Yeah.
And so this helped with honestly most of that weight, and was running lighter plates in here. But the way I ran this was like really overt, and you can actually get pretty low profile with this carrier depending on how you have it set up, because you can very easily like not have anything up front. Of course, the way I had it set up was with your guys' placard here. So I had 3 cells across the front for my rifle magazines, and part of that was, we'll get to that later as far as the belt setup, but part of the reason I kept those 3 full mags up here was just trying to balance this thing, because water was a big part of the weight. And of course this, I will say, like at first glance, I was like, I'm not sure how that's gonna hold, because there's not a huge amount of Velcro up front with respect to like this coming in versus this entire panel of Velcro. But when this was on there, it never came loose or anything like that. It did a great job for me. And then of course the way you have it cut to be able to route things with like 1 wrap to include hydration hose. And then on the back, this is your new breacher pack, right? Yeah, I'm glad I did not use it to the extent you used it during that competition, where you actually had like breaching tools in here. I, for the most part, kept that water bladder in here, which I actually never drank off of. So it was always heavy, but I didn't want to drink out of it and then be like, okay, let me go check and make sure my gear is the appropriate weight and fill this thing up. This did a good job for me. One thing that I personally always look for in plate carriers is whether either the cummerbund itself being elastic or having an elastic attachment back here where it actually attaches, because one, having your plate carrier move is not a good thing as far as under like dynamic movement and stuff like that. You do not want that moving. But then the other part of it is when I'm gassed out and breathing hard, I want there to be some play. Like it can't just be 1000D Cordura like crushing my lungs. So being able to easily, one, you can easily adjust this between stages if you're like, oh cool, like I'm just gonna relax a little bit, or in the stage have it cinched down and it's not moving regardless of how dynamic. But then when you start to breathe hard and your lungs are going, there's still enough movement where it's not constricting,
Yeah.
which is super important.
Yeah.
The other thing I do like about your guys' plate carrier is how well it actually fits plates. If you have a sloppy plate bag that won't size them up, like, that is not fun.
It's a wobbly. Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah, like I said, I did not use your breacher pack to the extent like it absolutely can be used for storing breaching tools and everything like that. I do like the fact though that it is largely kind of configurable and compressible, because that backpack stage had to throw that pack on over this, which was fine. Like, it worked. Someone did not secure their water bladder, and their whole water bladder like basically gave out when they put that pack on, which that was not me. That wasn't.
Yeah.
And then belts, I guess. You guys have a couple different, and when I was getting geared up, it was like, hey, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? And I appreciate that you guys actually have padded belts.
Yeah.
Mainly because I do a lot of shooting in the winter in North Idaho, and throwing something on over jackets, like, that's real. Like, you got to be able to do that. But if you don't need to do that, way better served with inner belt, outer belt, Velcro, just because it stays put. Your gear's exactly where you put it. And kind of, I guess, working around this way, these pistol pouches, I left these. They were never in the way, but I basically left these on here because I didn't know what we were going to be doing, like how dynamic or where we were. So I was like, well, I'll just leave these on in case I need them, which I never actually ended up using them. I just used the built-in retention, which for the Glock I was shooting, it did great, like never lost anything. And then again, for me, it was kind of stage dependent. Like, I like drawing rifle from the belt line. Again, I didn't remove this because I wasn't sure if I was going to need that extra retention, but I basically kept this there so that I could, if need be. And I think there was one stage where I'm like, I know I'm for sure going to be clearing my gun and doing a reload. So I ended up basically putting a mag down here for that one reload because I knew it was coming. And then, there was another stage, I think it was an all pistol stage, where I was like, I probably won't need more pistol bullets, but if I do, and so there's plenty of retention here also to be able to shove a pistol mag in there and have it stay. So I use that. And then dump pouches are interesting because my experience with them is I don't use them unless I need them, and I rarely need them. In that if you go to the range and go train and start doing tack reloads, very quickly you just have a whole dump pouch full of half-empty magazines, and I guess you can either load them back up or you just get to the point where you're doing combat reloads because you're at bolt lock or slide lock or whatever. And so the place I will use them is like going through shoot houses and stuff like that, where there's a penalty for going dry in the middle of it. And here I actually wasn't gonna run one because, again, previous experience, I'm like, I don't think we're gonna be in like a shoot house where I need to have this thing topped off. And Ian was like, you need a dump pouch. And I was like, okay, I'll put one on there. And sure enough, like, I used it literally every stage. And part of it is with the brutality rules of having to maintain equipment on you. And this was actually really nice having that on there. And there was one stage literally saved me. It was actually the burning car, where shot the spinner, shot my targets, and I'm like, man, kind of been doing a lot of shooting. And so while I'm running back to the very far bay, tack reload, put my partial in there, finish shooting the stage, and then I go to I basically go to like reload magazines for the next stage
Yeah.
or whatever. And that magazine I pulled out was totally empty. So
Oh.
there was one in the pipe and an empty mag, and then I tack reloaded. And that, I did really good on that stage.
Yeah.
I think I won that stage for the match.
Yeah.
But the difference between first and second was 1 second,
Yeah.
which I'm not that good at reloading. Like if I did not tack reload that, like that would have not happened.
That's a
And
good
so I was
process.
like, oh, man, yeah. And back here, your general purpose pouch, didn't use it too much. I think at one point I had like a handful of rounds
Yeah.
because I had a handful of spare
Yeah.
rounds for some reason in there, and then mainly some med gear. And then coming over here, had a knife on there. There wasn't a knife stage or anything like that, but had that on there. And it was this also, there's a lot of deconfliction that should happen or will happen, whether you do it beforehand or after, with respect to like layering gear and figuring out where to put a knife. Like that's a real thing, especially when you're wearing a plate carrier.
Yeah.
And so depending on what I'm doing, like sometimes I'll wear a plate carrier, I'll keep the front slick, but I'll run all my mags basically in cells around the side, which is way more low profile, especially if you're going to be climbing over a lot of stuff. But then, you have to deconflict that because now you have this knife like fighting with the rest of your gear. Yeah. And so making sure that it was slick with just these elastic cummerbund, this did really good right there. And then, borrowed this from you, holster as well as pistol. And that did good. And full circle.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was anything.
Yeah. How did it feel to go to you said that you want to experience and kind of see how the stuff works, but of course everybody has their kit squared away and it's always comfortable to shoot with your own kit. How did it feel to go to the first stage? Like, okay, it's the first time I'm using this gun and this gear.
Actually, so funny enough, in the world of reviewing stuff, I will show up at competitions, shooting courses with things that largely I've never shot before. And because for me, it's about the experience and how the stuff does. And so as much as I would love to have like my gear, it is constantly different rifle, different optic, different plate carrier, different belt system. And so it was pretty normal in that sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those two where if I miss, like it's not the gun, or if I don't do good, largely it's not a piece of gear.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is not what's making or breaking that stuff. Like it's the Indian, not the arrow. So
that's an interesting point. Like of course looking from your point of view, that your work is to kind of try evaluate the gear, so of course everything is constantly in flux with
always
you.
New.
Like it's even an advantage for you that
it is, in the sense that I mean I'll pick up anything and go shoot whatever. Again, like largely for the experience and to just try stuff out. And I mean, like I said, like I felt pretty confident coming over here. Like you guys were making good gear because there's a very real reason for you to have it. You're not making, I'm sure people like play in this stuff, whether it's like airsoft and stuff like that, not like the training side of airsoft, but just like the fun, like game side. I'm sure people absolutely buy this stuff, but that isn't the intention of this stuff. Like it is made to a much higher level with respect to like quality, QC, everything like that. So I was like, I'm sure this stuff's pretty well thought out. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, awesome. You see a lot of gear in your line of work, and also use it extensively, and now you had this experience. Do you have some kind of guiding principles or some tips for people when they are figuring out that, okay, I would probably need to set up my gear? What do you have learned? What are the lessons learned, that do's and don'ts, what people should kind of live according to?
I think the biggest one, and I guess term phrasing borrowed from, I think, like Sayak and Atiyan Zakali, but is LOT, which is logical order of thought. So why are you doing what you're doing? And that is 100% gear. Like, whether it's guns, whether it's plate carriers, like optics for guns, like all of those things, as far as like, hey, what am I trying to do here? And you look at any different thing, like whether it's, I don't know, like literally any aspect of this, and it's like, hey, what am I trying to do? Like, for example, with these pants with knee pads, like I shot a pistol class, to include these, I've shot a pistol class drawing a pistol out of fanny pack holster, wearing board shorts, wearing Crocs. Like, that is not what I would choose for this. And I mean, on a number of levels, I wouldn't choose that. But it's like, hey, like, what's the environment going to be? Like, this would be a very wise investment. Or if you are getting a plate carrier, like, what's your LOT behind the plate carrier? Do you want one because it looks cool? In which case, buy it. There's no gatekeeper. But if you're like, hey, what I want is a plate carrier that's going to do this, like, be pretty specific with what it needs to do, and figure out those needs. And then, hey, will it also do this? So, hey, I want something pretty slick and like lightweight. So if I want, I can throw a cover shirt over it or something like that. But I also want the ability to put some like Fastex buckles here and put like a double mag shingle, because I'm going to go through a door and go big, and I want 6 magazines across the front. Or you'll find people that are like, oh, well, I saw it on a movie and someone had 6 magazines across the front, and now you're shooting a competition where you have to go prone and you can't get low enough to shoot under the barricade because you have 6 magazines across the front. So I think largely just figuring out what the need is and making sure it fits that actual need. And then also just be real. If you just want it, like, cool, man. Get it because it's cool.
That's a valid reason as well. Awesome. Any closing thoughts, remarks about the match or your visit here? Or
No, like it was really fun, and no, it was an amazing match, and I definitely like that. Like, Finnish brutality is like pretty brutal, especially if you go in the breacher division. But it's one of those also where it's as brutal as you want it to be. Like, how hard do you want to push? But thank you.
Good times.
Absolutely.
Until next time.